Boom! Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today I'm giving my prediction for the upcoming fight between Eduardo Nunez and Emanuel Navarrete. Unification fight at 130 pounds, and this fight is guaranteed to be a freaking monster of a fight. This fight is going to be a war, and I can't wait for it. And it's honestly a very difficult fight to choose because initially I want to choose Emanuel Navarrete, but there's certain things we have to take into consideration before choosing our victor here, right? So, Emanuel Navarrete has been fighting on this level for a very long time. Champion at 122, 126, 130, and even tried at 135 and lost the title in a split decision to the same Ukrainian guy that got knocked out by Keyshawn Davis, and ain't no shame in that, right? But when you look at Navarrete's style, you kind of almost like get a little happy, right? If you're somebody that don't know who he is and you're like, this is who you're fighting, you're like, oh, I'm gonna be able to set this guy up. I'm gonna be able to see his punches coming because he telegraphs, and that's just not the case for a lot of these fighters, and he's fighting top guys. He telegraphs his punches, sure, but he also has this sneaky right hand and this wide left uppercut that seems to be his money punches, right? And he has a long reach, but he gets even more reach because he leans in from a distance. So if he's almost what they tell you not to do, right? They tell you don't lean in with your body and shoot the punch. You're gonna be vulnerable for an uppercut or a counter hook, and he is, and he's gotten hit with those. But he has a good chin, and he gets countered less often than he probably should, or at least looks like he should, right? So he uses his reach advantage fairly well. And not many fighters can get away doing what he does with leaning in with that left hand. He does have really good ring IQ for his capabilities, right? He does dodge punches in between. So if he gets hit clean, he normally doesn't get hit with many combos in a row. He might get hit with 1, 2 in a row, but he does duck, he does move aside, he does step back. So he does have some defensive tangibles that he uses, but he's a very offensive-minded fighter, and for those reasons, he does get hit. Now, I know in his last fight versus Suarez, he claimed that he struggled to make weight. And he said it was the worst cut he ever had. This guy is a big guy. He's not a muscular guy. He actually looks a little flabby for a skinny. He's like a skinny fat type of guy. But he has been struggling, and I think that could work against him right now. Now, let's go talk about Eduardo Nunez real quick, man. He hasn't been on this level that long, but his last 2 fights against the Japanese guy, he was 16-1, but he was a very good fighter. It was almost schooling him the first 3 rounds. And then he has the fight against Christopher Diaz as well. But let's go back to the fighter from Japan, Rikishi was his name. He was actually losing those first 3 rounds, and he was getting kind of schooled a little bit, but he's a very smart pressure fighter, and he was able to, once he kind of adjusted and changed up his offense a little bit, was able to attack the body and the head, and it kind of confused Rikishi, and he closed the gap in that fight and ended up winning that fight, I think, fair and square. Then he had this fight with Christopher Diaz, and the reason why I like these 2 fights is because in one fight, he was very offensive, very forward fighter against Rikishi, right? But then versus Christopher Diaz, he mixed it up. He shows, yo, I can box, I can move, I can be offensive, I can counter. He did a lot of good things. And Christopher Diaz is no slouch of a fighter. You know, he's only lost to the best, including Navarrete back in the day, but Christopher Diaz is one of those guys that's fought so much high-level competition, it almost looks like he's gotten better over time. But that didn't stop Nunez from putting on the work and getting that clear decision victory over him, right? Now, let's compare these styles, right? Navarrete versus Nunez. What could happen here, right? Possibilities are, hey, this is going to turn into a war. Huge possibility for that, right? And Navarrete is going to try to make this a war right away, and that'll benefit both fighters because that's the style where Nunez is going to be able to kind of show his skills in countering, and I really like how he does it. He does a shoulder roll, but it's not really his main style of fighting, but he does shoulder roll sometimes. It comes back with that looping right hand, and I think that's going to be a money punch for him. I think Nunez has the better offensive arsenal when it comes to boxing, but when it comes to fighting, man, Navarrete, you can never tell. This dude throws punches from every angle. You could have him like kind of leaning forward, and he's just reaching down, throwing punches from different angles. It's hard to prepare for a guy like that. He reminds me of Paul Williams a little bit. Just the weird angles. He even throws those looping hooks like Paul Williams used to do. And you know, Paul Williams is not an easy guy to beat. Navarrete is not an easy guy to beat. So in a fight like this, it's just going to be an all-out war. I think it's going to come down to who's going to be able to take each other's punches better. I do think the more disciplined fighter is Nunez when it comes to boxing skills. But who's more offensive-minded? Navarrete by a small margin. But Nunez is a hard puncher. And I think that at this point, how big Navarrete is, the weight will be affecting Navarrete at some point in the fight. Nunez showed that he does not really gas out. His last 2 fights went the distance. And for a guy who was knocking everybody out, he went the distance 2 fights in a row, 12 rounds, and didn't really seem to slow down at all. And I really, really like that about Nunez. I think it's safe to say he has a good gas tank. And Navarrete's gone the distance as well. But I think at this point, him going down to 130, not fighting since last May, I don't know what he's been doing in between, but I think that struggle to make weight will catch up to him. If Navarrete doesn't get him out of there early, I see Navarrete losing the last third of the fight, these last 4 rounds. I would favor Nunez to win those rounds, and there's always a possibility of a knockout with people like this that are just so offensive and actually have really good power. I'm not ruling that out, but I do think Nunez will pull the upset. Guys, I'm calling upset Nunez. I think he's going to be able to power through. I know that Navarrete has the reach advantage and he uses it well, but the way he uses it will work against him in this fight. I think Nunez's counter punching is going to work, and I also think he's going to be able to attack the body fairly easily at times. He just got to be really careful with those awkward punches from Navarrete, because Navarrete is that's just how good he is. His IQ of his capabilities is next level. You know what I'm saying? That's how he's been able to compete at this level for so long. Is because he knows who he is, and he goes, hey, I may not be the prettiest boxer, but I'm going to punch you by reaching over my dang head and trying to freaking knock you out. So those tangibilities make him dangerous. But I like Nunez by upset decision, guys. That is my pick. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I know a lot of the people are favoring Navarrete. I know a huge amount of the people who make these type of videos are like, yeah, Navarrete's gonna squeeze this out, but I'm calling upset Nunez and the new unified champ, baby. That's what I'm calling. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, all right? Until the next one, guys, I'm out.